Ubisoft says that the next generation of consoles will be the last.
Doom.
Hot take. During an interview with Variety, Yves Guillemot said that he doesn't believe that the next generation of consoles is really going to continue on after that. Likely they're going to see kind of a turn down of hardware because Microsoft really doesn't believe that there's a future in it themselves. You see, Microsoft has been positioning the Xbox brand to kind of move away from hardware, as weird as it is, to be more of an open platform where anyone can download games on anything. That's why you're seeing a lot of Xbox games move over to PC because, well, that's where they think the future is. Adam, what do you think?
Well, so what we're basically saying or hearing is that the next iteration of consoles, the PS5 and the Xbox 2, are going to be the final physical iterations of consoles, right?
Yes.
That's basically what we're hearing. So the mind begins to do mental jumping gymnastics and reeling a bit, trying to think about what this universe is going to be like, right? What the PS6 would be, this non-consoleized version of our gaming experience. I got to start asking questions like, are these going to be streaming services? Is there going to be one universal box for everything? What do you think?
So I think when every company I think is going to approach this differently. So first off, let's just say this. I am pretty certain there's going to be like an Xbox 2. Like, I believe there's going to be another Xbox.
Right, that's what they're saying here.
Yeah.
There's going to be a PS5.
I believe there's going to be a PS5.
Well, I think these things are already, they're
right,
being made as we speak. We've heard rumors about these for the longest time.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that Nintendo is going to continue on. I believe in the same track that the Switch is. So I believe that Nintendo's next system isn't going to be like a reinvention of everything. I believe their next one is going to be a Switch Part 2.
Yeah, right. I think that if anyone is to be late to the party, Nintendo probably will be. So we're more likely to see PlayStation and Xbox jump onto this, whatever this sort of, whether it's a service or whatever. Nintendo will probably be like a year or two late into it. Who knows? They always seem to be the odd man out in some respects. So we could be seeing hardware iterations like well into the future if they're like, no, we've always done hardware. This is what we're going to do.
I imagine that like now that they've seen how successful the mobile market is to transition their home consoles into like mobile systems, I don't think you're going to see a change there. I think they're going to keep on going in that direction because for them to go backwards wouldn't make too much sense. But what they're saying is directly after that, it's over. This is it. You're not going to see more systems.
Right.
So when it comes to Microsoft, I think they are best in class for this. Microsoft has proven that they can take the original Xbox, the Xbox 360, and Xbox One games and transition them between platforms.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of the jump onto the PC. If you have a pretty good PC at this point, you can play a lot of those Xbox One games right there on your PC right now.
And like right now, if you were to go to Xbox or the Microsoft Store on Windows, or the Windows Store, I think that's what they call it, you can download Xbox One games that are just running natively on Windows. It's not an emulation of the system or anything like that. They've also taken older Xbox games. I think it's Phantom something.
Oh, the card game.
Yeah.
Oh,
Phantom. I can't believe I just forgot the name. But
yell about it in the comments, please.
So that Phantom game, you keep talking. I want to find the game. Phantom.
Yeah. So you're saying that this game is now streaming?
Yes.
Or this is something that you can get digitally?
You can get it digitally on Windows.
This was originally...
Phantom Dust. Jeez.
Okay.
So Phantom Dust is going to be coming to, or is already on Windows, and that was a great kind of take of getting an old Xbox game to run on a modern system. They did kind of remastered a little bit.
Right.
They gave it some extra features, widescreen abilities, and a better resolution. And a lot of the elements inside the game, like the OS, or not the OS, but the basic graphics and stuff, were still low res because it was originally supposed to be for a system that didn't have those high resolution graphics. But I think Microsoft is really putting themselves in a degree where they want to be like, okay, our entire back catalog moves forward with us.
Yeah.
So for them, I honestly think that they're going to want to get the Xbox brand attached to different products like laptops, cell phones, whatever they can get to make those games run on future products in the future. I believe that's literally where they're going.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all of their games, technically use the same controller, right? There hasn't been this big difference.
No.
Microsoft never adapted motion controls outside of the Kinect, but that Kinect was never something that they've really shown support for in the future going forward.
Right.
And I think that a lot of the games they have one basic control, one basic operating system, one basic concept and philosophy, utilizing DirectX and just going forward.
Yeah, it's a far more friendly sort of ecosystem for games than PlayStation's sort of history, because we have had some weirdness in the hardware and stuff. But the PlayStation has had pretty well the same controller ever since the first iteration of the PlayStation.
Yeah.
When you got the dual sticks on the controller.
It's true.
It's been pretty well the same. So one thing that I wanted to touch on that you had mentioned with the Xbox One and bringing these games forward, we are seeing up-resed graphics. We're seeing some differences here or there with the games. And part of this this is kind of scary from a game preservation standpoint, because I want to see what these original games looked like. That appeals to me, and I'm sure it appeals to a lot of other people as well.
Yeah.
If these streaming games continue to be adjusted and changed, are we going to be able to get those vanilla experiences? Like if I want that right now, I collect games. I can just take my original Sony PlayStation discs and I can put them into my PS1, PS2, PS3, not PS4, and I can kind of experience what those games were like. Some of those consoles do bump up the graphics a bit, but I have that day one experience with those games.
It's true. Like I think there is a problem when it comes to Sony trying to move things forward, and there's a big problem with Nintendo.
Right.
We'll talk about that one directly after this. So Sony with the PlayStation 3 implemented the use of motion controls with their controller. Not all the games made use of it, but some did.
Barely.
Yeah.
I would say barely.
And with the PlayStation 4, they now have the touchpad at the front and motion controls and a speaker on the controller. And I mean, like, they've added all these pieces that now, if they are to make a platform like that works in the future, you're going to have a controller that harvests some of those functionality pieces,
or find different ways of approaching those, those inputs.
Modify the games so that
absolutely.
they don't have those elements in them, or whatever it may be. So it might change for them, but I don't think it's too far gone. I think Sony is in a better position to implement their design with their own televisions, but I think that because Sony makes their own TVs, they're not really going to give their PlayStation app that downloads games out to anybody else, right? Yeah. They still have their own hardware that they manufacture, so I don't think they're going to be like, oh, LG, take our Sony stuff and put it on there. See, Microsoft could do that, because Microsoft could have that relationship with basically anyone, including Sony if they wanted to, specifically if they give up the hardware race. Maybe Sony keeps making hardware in the future because they are a hardware manufacturer, and the PlayStation 6 maybe does exist, and it just has an Xbox brand on it where you can download Xbox games onto it, which is something we saw that happened with the 360 and like Dreamcast games moving forward and stuff like that. And even some Sega games came to Xbox as well.
Right, and we did see the Wii grabbing a bunch of games from like Hudson Soft and companies that they weren't necessarily Nintendo per se.
With the Virtual Console and stuff like that.
Yeah, like looking at, like you said, it'll be kind of dicey for a like television manufacturing company like Sony to
to give some of their like perfect IP that they can make a lot of money out of, and a really good promotional piece for their televisions, to give that away to someone else.
Yeah, exactly. And like I just don't see like if this is to move forward in the future, it needs to be like kind of an open. It seems like it needs to be an open environment where Xbox can jump in, PlayStation can jump in, and possibly Nintendo. And it doesn't matter what television it's on per se. That would be the perfect future for this console-less sort of.
Because I think what Yves was trying to say is that when you go to that next platform, when you're thinking about making a whole new like a kind of streaming model and stuff like that, do you really need the box anymore? Because we're seeing a lot of smart TVs come out and stuff like that. A lot of the TV, like one of the TVs we have around us right now has a Roku box. And that Roku box is basically a little box that turns your television into a smart TV. It gives us the ability for Netflix and all that stuff, but we also have another TV that has Roku built into it. And I think that's really where the future's going to go, where you have these things built in. So I think any TV manufacturer that wants the Xbox brand is going to want to bring it on. The only reason I think that Sony is going to hesitate a little bit is because they don't want to give that out right away.
Right.
They still sell televisions,
yeah, exactly.
And arguably they are pretty good to this day.
That's the one thing that's kind of dicey about that, because they are still very, very much like a physical like manufacturer of products, just solely like letting that go, it seems like it would be a bit of a stretch.
Especially like if you go to the store and you see that there's a Sony TV and like a bunch of other Sony devices that have PlayStation built in with all these classic games, would Sony really be like, oh, well, we should also give that to the LG guys so that everyone can be like, oh yeah, let's get stuff on LG as well.
Right.
I think Sony would use that as a bargaining chip, a positioning piece to actually get people to want to get Sony TVs in big force again. Kind of like back in the 90s, Sony televisions were the best televisions. They had the best quality, they had the best images.
Right.
To this day, if you were to find like a Trinitron TV from Sony, it's still one of the best CRT TVs you can get.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that if Sony were to kind of go back to something like that, they could really do that with the PlayStation brand, using that as like a power tool. But when it comes to Xbox doesn't, or Microsoft doesn't have that inherent relationship with any of these companies, so they could just choose whatever they want, you know? And they could even go up to Sony and go, hey, you've got the PlayStation thing, so here's our Xbox stuff as well. And when you go to buy these TVs, maybe they come bundled with a controller. Maybe they sell a package on the side where, you know, you get like a year subscription to the Xbox service where all the games are streamed to you. Streaming is only getting better as we go along, and even though I believe that it's still quite a little ways out from actually being perfected.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So streaming, I know right now, like the internet connection varies throughout, you know, North America and the rest of the world as well.
Yeah.
So do you firmly believe that like everything will be streaming by that point? Will we be able to have like a decent, like low latency to zero latency experience with a streaming service?
I think there's enough places in the world where the internet isn't strong enough where that can't be, it can never really be solid enough.
I mean, I'm just in southern Canada, and our internet service is pretty poor.
So here's an idea, right?
Yeah.
So Microsoft with the Xbox One, they have like a monthly service called Game Pass, and on Game Pass you download the games to your hard drive.
Right.
And you just play it using that hardware. I believe the hardware will eventually get small enough and powerful enough that's built into your TV that it can run those things. I mean, technically, I would say at this point, you've got a whole bunch of smart TVs out there that have the capability of running at least PlayStation, if not PlayStation 2 era games, because they've got these really good like processors and chips in them that have that kind of power.
So we're assuming that these TVs will have possibly an Xbox, a tiny, I don't know if it's like a motherboard with a chip on it, have an Xbox version of that, a PlayStation version of that, possibly a Nintendo version of that?
At least the first version, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's where it's going to go. I believe that's... and then in future, afterwards, they're going to be like, okay, now we can just do this on the server side.
Yeah.
But I believe to begin with, you're going to start to see TVs implementing that. Like, for instance, I know my TV at home right now has LG Play or an Android-based operating system on it, and I know you can actually download games on there and play it natively. And I have, and it's pretty fun. Like, it does work. It's just... I know that every time in the past that I've tried to stream a game, whether it's PlayStation Now or it's Game Live, which doesn't exist anymore, that service was okay, but it never was perfect. And when you're looking at people buying new TVs with these features, they're probably looking at getting 4K televisions. So streaming a 4K image is still pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Streaming one that has to be streamed for hours on end at high resolutions and you want that detail, it's probably not going to be as high as people are hoping it's going to be, and I think it's going to be like that for several years to come.
Yeah, right. It all depends on when these services drop, and because tech is it keeps going and going, and we see we can get very powerful, very compelling gameplay experiences more so over time. So we could get to the point where streaming a 4K game is possible within the next, I don't know, it'll be another 10 years, another decade or so probably before these services are implemented, if they are. I start to think about some of the negatives of having these services, though. Are these going to be like Netflix services where, okay, I can watch one movie today or enjoy a television show today, and tomorrow it might not be there? Is this something that we could see? Is this going to be a subscription service? Are we going to be paying per game?
100%.
So many questions pop up.
I believe it's going to be like a subscription service. We're already seeing with Game Pass on Xbox, they're already removing games and then adding new ones. So they're now starting a cycle.
Right.
And I believe you're going to see that moving forward, that it's just going to be companies are going to lose licenses and
exactly. It's so like liquid, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Things just kind of happen, which is scary. Like a lot of the folks collecting games, we collect because, okay, we like having a physical piece of media there that you can take off the shelf, but we also know, again, that we can always play those games in one form or another, and with services that might be taken away from people. And with video games too, it's not just a 2-hour movie or a 30-minute show. You could be 20 hours into like a sprawling RPG or something, and then, maybe they give you a little warning. Oh, by the way, next month, Final Fantasy, yada yada, will be removed from the service.
It's true.
What do you do?
I mean, I think that you're going to see the subscription model in place, but I also believe the way that Google's been treating it, the way that Steam and Valve have been treating it, and the way that Microsoft has been treating it, is they sell you a license for that one game. You get a digital version of that game, and then that digital version of the game goes between systems and keeps on going forever, and you own that.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be people out there that just want to own things.
Right.
I don't think that's going to go away. I mean, I've actually bought digital movies on like Google Play and iTunes. I've got all the Back to the Future movies on iTunes, and no matter where I go, if I have my iPhone on me, I can actually watch it. And I think that's always going to be there. I think they're going to want that because...
You think they're going to implement kind of like, there's going to be a Netflix service, but if you do want to buy, you can spend however much money and you have that product.
Exactly. Because think about it this way. The reason why they want to implement that is because let's say it's like $10 a month to have this streaming service, and that's somebody regularly paying $10 a month. That's really cool.
Yes.
But then you can go on top and say, hey, if you want this specific movie, it's $5. So they make half their profit from the month from somebody buying one movie that they're likely only going to stream once throughout that month, right? If they decide to stream it more often, who cares? They got more money off that one sale than they did off a package of streaming content. So I think that that's going to be the way that happens. But with all that being said, I think that Microsoft and Sony definitely going down that path. I can see them doing it.
Right. Nintendo.
No. That's not happening with Nintendo. I think the folks at Ubisoft understand this. I think Nintendo is always going to be a hardware manufacturer.
Yeah.
And I believe Nintendo has done, and unfortunately I'm going to call this damage because that's how I view it. Nintendo has done enough damage with the way that they design hardware that their back catalog cannot be accessed in the future, depending on a billion factors.
Right. There's so many different factors because we've seen the way that Nintendo has approached hardware in the past, and we've had controllers that we have waggle motion controllers. We've even with their like the 3DS and DS line, we have dual screens. We have the 3D effects in games and things. These are the sorts of ideas that kind of hold these past games back from being on a service like this.
Yeah. So okay, like let's just think about this. Okay, so if as long as PlayStation and Sony give away or keep selling the latest iteration of their controller, they're not going to have any problems.
Right.
The latest PlayStation 4 controller works with all old PlayStation games. The latest Xbox controller works with all old Xbox games.
In theory, they can work with those games.
The only real differences you've seen on Xbox controllers really has been just the way it vibrates, the way that it has like trigger vibrations.
It's kind of like fine-tuning the experience with those original controllers.
It really, like, I can still play Xbox like original games on the latest controller, and I believe you can. I think you can go out and buy the Duke right now, the original Xbox controller. To play new games,
it's actually really cool.
So they've done that, right? So there's that thing. There's all that philosophy there. Even though the layout has changed, they've added extra triggers. You have all the same buttons. You can still do it. So with that being in mind,
you're not going to be playing Skyward Sword But I don't know. Maybe you will.
Okay.
There probably is a universe where you can, but I just don't see that on a streaming service on the same level as the Xbox and PlayStation services in the future.
A basic controller is going to give you the NES, it's going to give you Game Boy, it's going to give you Game Boy Advance, it's going to give you...
everything up to the GameCube, basically.
But then again, to a degree, right?
Yeah.
There's certain games on the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance that use tilt sensors, right?
But I mean, we've seen that with PlayStation titles as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
no. But I'm saying, as long as they include that controller, right?
Yeah.
So whatever it is that they do for the Nintendo iteration, they've got those things. So the majority of games are not going to be an issue there.
Right.
Then when you get onto the GameCube, you need analog triggers. You need analog
sticks. They could implement into a controller.
Exactly.
We can get a controller with the movement capabilities. We could get it with the analog triggers as well. There's just some other things that'll be extremely hard to place into the gaming experience, especially the 3D from like a 3DS.
Yes.
We're not going to be able to see those games.
So when it comes to, let's just say, the pointing mechanics, right? So right now I've got an LG television at home, and it's got a controller that actually has a pointing feature on it, so I can select things on the screen using a gyroscope.
Yeah.
It is incredibly accurate. I never ever it never desyncs, it never has any issues with me, and I feel that exact same technology can be used to play Wii games. But then, when I think about it a little bit more, it's like, okay, now let's talk about the Wii U. Now you need a tablet that has the screen on there.
I didn't even think about that until just now. So yeah, a Wii U, the implementation of that console, yeah, at the very beginning, they really they held pretty firm with that dual screen sort of play style. So a lot of those initial games we won't see re-released on the Switch, and you're not going to be seeing those.
Yeah.
So if we do see any iterations of the Wii U games, it's going to be the Switch port.
Okay, so then you've got the Switch port.
And those do kind of work, 100%. Right?
But then you've got the Switch port, and the Switch port then has two joysticks that can be used independently of each other. So then you've got all this, you've got motion controls that need two different kind of motion control joysticks. There's a lot of stuff on there that makes what they're going to do very difficult. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible, because they could do it, but here's the problem, okay? Let's say you've got Mario Kart 8, all right? The brand new Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It was released on the Switch. Best version of the game, hands down.
Right.
They're definitely not going to be using the Wii U version to bring to a television. I just don't think it's going to happen. So they've done that, all right? Once they've brought that over, then you have to realize that if they didn't modify the game, if someone's going to be playing it multiplayer, they've got all those built-in prompts and commands to take out the left and right Joy-Cons and to do that stuff. And then you've got a really big problem with all these on-screen elements that don't really match up.
Yeah, so you're saying that there's going to be a lot of time and money, there would have to be a lot of time and money put into recreating these games so that they work on the now streaming service.
Exactly.
Right? It could be extremely expensive. It's not just like tossing, like an Xbox game would be a lot easier probably to toss on one of these services, because the controller's likely going to be the exact same as it has been.
And then with the DS and the 3DS, you have a touch screen, right?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how that would be tackled. We've seen the DS emulated. I believe with the Wii U, with the Wii U, you can play DS games, and it is a little jank already, and that's on a Nintendo produced.
It is.
Yeah, the shame of it all is that like there's so many great games there that could possibly be lost.
The DS library is incredibly good.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Absolutely.
And the 3DS library,
yep.
I think that, and look, I still like the Wii U library. There's a lot of games on there, like Pikmin, that I'm still a fan of. And the
Tokyo Mirage Sessions, we'll never see that game again, and I'm very sad about that.
Now, this is how I think about it. If Nintendo was to do this, I think their only option, if we just take the hardware they have in mind now, is to make a Switch-style controller. Now, a Switch-style controller that gets bundled with TVs or sold separately and then works with your television, whatever it may be, and this is where it gets really complex, because they have to make a pretty expensive controller that has a left and right joystick that comes out, has a touch screen that can be used to play DS games, so your bottom screen is on your bottom controller, and the top screen's up there. Essentially, they're recreating the Wii U.
Yeah, that is the Wii U in a nutshell.
and then it's like, that is really complex. That is really
and
difficult.
that's scary water to tread, because we've seen, how well the Wii U did.
Most recently in China, we saw that the NVIDIA Shield that was released there actually has the ability to run Wii games through emulation. And what they did was, instead of using the on-screen controls, they actually made the kind of aiming of stuff just kind of on one of the joysticks. So they're willing to do that kind of stuff and work with other companies, as we've just seen that happen. And it's been generations since we've seen Nintendo actually release their products on other platforms.
I mean, it's interesting and cool to see those controls implemented in a different way, like onto a joystick or like another button or something. But when those controls were first created, they were created with a certain like use in mind, and like as much as people will, you know, say negative things about waggle or motion controls, like there was still so much freedom there. And taking that kind of freedom and applying it to something different, like a stick or a trigger or a button, it's just not going to be the same.
It really isn't.
It won't.
So at the end of the day, what do you think? So Xbox, you believe that they're going to go into this path?
There's so much to talk about here. I feel like we've only scratched the surface. But yeah, like, okay, if I was to take any of the three major players right now, I would say that Microsoft with their Xbox system is more prepped, more ready, and they have more experience to jump into this future, right? Because we do see that integration into the PC ecosystem. Sony would be next in line, but like you said, there are some difficulties there because they are a manufacturer of televisions and things. So you would assume that they would maybe want to have kind of a proprietary sort of television deal. Yeah. And then, Nintendo would be coming up last. It still seems like there's so many buts and ifs to all of this that I would just say, like, no, absolutely not. Like, I feel like consoles will be moving forward. If not, like, if Sony and Microsoft do find their way onto a television or a streaming service or whatever, I still believe, like, Nintendo will have will be dipping into hardware for a long time to come.
I think that Microsoft has a bitter taste of the hardware building scene right now. I think the Xbox One has shown them that the fandom and the support that they built with the 360 eroded super fast. And I would argue that there's still a lot of really good games being released on the Xbox. They're doing a really great job with its library. The problem is there isn't exclusives.
Exactly.
Because the exclusives are now on PC.
Right.
And when people have that option, they're just like, well, what's the point? Why should I get an Xbox? And the idea is that you get to play those same PC games that you play on your TV, but that message isn't hitting people. Sony is giving you the exclusives. Nintendo is giving you the exclusives. So I think that we're more likely going to see Xbox move to a software state platform where they utilize an Xbox style, like, closed like OS or something like that has DirectX built into it that they can offset to hardware manufacturers of any kind.
Sure. It feels like we're taking those baby steps today. Like, it really does feel like Xbox is heading that way.
You know, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft were to go, okay, here's the Xbox 2, and then they just give everybody a stick.
Right.
And like they just go plug it up to your TV, and you're emulating original Xbox games from the entire generation down, and we're going to keep releasing games on that platform, utilizing their PC service the same way. I mean, they want Windows Store. Windows Store is built into Windows 10, right? So they already have a built-in audience of people that could be buying things.
Immediately.
And with me, with all my Xbox games that I've purchased, a lot of them are available on my PC now, and I don't even think about it. Like, I turn it on and I go, oh, I can test out this game on PC now. And some of the games on my PC run better, like Forza Horizon 3. Oh my god, on the Xbox One X even, it's okay and everything, but on my PC I can run it at 4K at 60 frames per second, and I could do that a long time ago, you know? It's a very well designed game.
Well, with these streaming services, if they do go streaming, we may not even have to worry about hardware at all.
Yeah.
Right?
I think Sony is in a position where they're just, you know, I think they see too much success in their hardware, and I believe that if the next PlayStation is even more successful than this one because of less competition,
they seem like they have no reason necessarily to jump into streaming quickly or some sort of whatever service quickly, because their systems have been doing so well.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I could honestly see Sony jumping back into the portable market. They're seeing so much success with the hardware of the PlayStation brand itself.
Absolutely, we were talking about that just just recently.
Yeah, so I mean, they really have like the like a whole lot of options there. But when it comes to specifically Nintendo, I can't see it happening. I know that they've experimented, I know that they've tried, and we've seen it recently happen now with the Wii on the Shield platform, like I said, but I just can't see them getting out of the hardware game. I think they have too much success there. I think that even though they struggle sometimes, their experiences are so unique to their platform, and to take that and move it anywhere else, like you couldn't take certain games that are on the Switch right now and move it to any other platform. It just doesn't work because they would have to redesign the game and reestablish things. And from what I saw of Mario Galaxy running on the NVIDIA Shield, it's just there's elements of it that don't work because you're not using the original Nintendo hardware, and I believe that's always going to be an issue throughout the future with Nintendo.
It feels like there's going to be a cutoff point with their software if they are to move forward with one of these services, because there's just so many things that you can't duplicate without having those controls specifically.
Yeah. So guys, everyone that's watching, you probably have like completely different experiences with these hardware.
There are so many things I wanted to talk about, and like I'm sure you guys want to talk about them too. So please say something in the comments, and we'll check it out, and maybe we can add it to the discussion at a later date.
Yeah. Let us know what kind of console you think is going to continue for the next generation, or if you believe that Nintendo's going to be out of the game, or honestly, maybe you just think everyone is going to be streaming boxes. So let's hear what you have to say.